Draga awakens in a forest when she hears the landing of a plane. She takes her gun, and as one of the men leaves the plane, he is shot to the head. In the meantime, former Marine Levi wakes up after a nightmare and chooses to spend some time on the beach to get his mind straightened. He receives a piece of news in the morning that he has to go to the Marine Corps base. At the base later on, Levi is introduced to Agent Bartholomew. She is aware that he is an excellent sniper, has no family or friends, and provides him with employment. In Lithuania, Draga returns to her father to celebrate the anniversary in the cemetery where her mother is buried. Her father has just been informed that his cancer is incurable, hence the reason why he says that before February 14th, he might die first by killing himself so that he can spend his time with his wife on Valentine's Day. In September, Levi wakes up on a plane in an anergetic-induced sleep. He inquires a soldier where they are, but she does not know. She steals all his personal effects and informs him that they are going to no-fly zone. He will be forced to walk and run the rest of the way. Levi jumps, takes the bag, and waits till it is time to open the parachute. He safely lands and embarks on a long journey that involves numerous climbing, hiking, and camping. He suddenly comes to the brink of a vast gulf. He then encounters soldier JD, who has been there a year and is not even aware of where they are. They visit the West Tower, which sustains itself through solar energy, a reserve generator, rainwater, a vegetable garden, and animals to hunt. The other tower is the East Tower, to which they are not permitted to touch. The north and south sides of the gorge are mined and barred, and there is no passage at all. As JD takes Levi on a tour, he elaborates on what they do. Levi patrols the western rim every day, and he loads automatic gun turrets installed at 600-meter intervals. He also inspects the fence, hanging mines, and cloakers, which are used to transmit false signals to satellites so as to have the gorge concealed. Radio checks occur after every 30 days, and there is no means of communicating with the outside. In case of an emergency, there will be a panic button to initiate a Straydog protocol, which JD does not understand and informs Levi to run in case it happens. According to JD, it is as old as the Cold War, and at the time various countries vowed to remain silent about it, even to presidents. Levi just has to make sure that nothing in the gorge comes out. It is bizarre, and JD once thought the same before he listened to hollow men making screeching sounds. According to JD, the manner in which 3 horseback groups entered the gorge to clean up the area began way back in the late 1940s, and no one came back. Therefore, the military is now concentrated on containment. Then, JD comes out of the tower and walks to the pickup point. He is picked by a helicopter using a rope, and a soldier requests his ID. The soldier shoots JD in the head when he provides the password and leaves his body in the mountains. After a month, Levi is accustomed to his routine that is boring. He patrols the parking area, operates security cameras, and communicates with the radio. The other voice merely inquires about whether everything is all right, and ends up without Levi getting a chance to inquire. Levi observes some movement in the other tower as he labors in the garden. He proceeds to his pair of field glasses and observes Drasa splitting wood. She sees him, but ignores him. In the middle of one stormy night, Levi is awakened by a nightmare and smashes a glass. He feels like he is being assaulted, picks up a gun, and later on realizes that he was feeling the pain on his foot that was caused by the glass, and so he relaxes. As he mends his foot, he notices Drasa lying still staring at him. The sight of him looking at her takes her to bed. A month later, Drasa lives her birth alone. She is bored and ends up shooting a gun to get Levi to pay attention to her, and she holds a sign in demand of his name. Levi responds by saying that they cannot talk, and Drasa identifies herself and promises to do anything that she desires on her birthday. A smiling Levi introduces himself and lifts a glass to make a toast. Then, Drasa puts loud music and dances when he requests Levi to dance. He claims that he is a bad dancer and a great sniper. Therefore, Drasa takes a shot at his water bottle. Levi picks up his gun hastily and shoots her bottle as well. Then Drasa puts another bottle on her head as the game. She halts as she spies something that is going in the gorge. As Levi looks down, he sees weird creatures that resemble tree people climbing his wall. He fires one, which hits a mine. It blows up, and the majority of the climbers fall. There are still creeping creatures. Levi continues shooting, and Drasa goes with her machine gun. The two kill all the animals in a couple of minutes. A creature arrives at the balcony of Drasa when they believe that their fight is over. Several times she shoots it and hits it away. Then monsters began to climb on her wall, and the 2 soldiers are forced to cooperate once again. One of the animals collapses on a mine, which results in another blast. Drasa is struck on the shoulder by a piece of metal, and the creatures now climb both walls at the same time. Levi and Drasa use machine guns and lay additional mines. They slaughter the monsters until they are all gone. During the morning, Drasa is attending to her wounds and tells her that it was the best birthday. Levi heads down to repair the damage and replace the mines. Then suddenly, a drone comes flying out of the gorge and flies away. During a Christmas tree, Levi in December wraps a tree in a forest with lights, and he also erects a sign to Drasa. Since that time, they do various things together, make snowmen with the names of each other, play chess, play pot drums. On February 14th, Levi visits Drasa in tears in front of a family portrait. He wonders why she had not gone out on patrol. According to her, she had a difficult day, and she hopes that he would be with her. Using all the armory equipment, Levi constructs a machine and launches a rocket across the chasm. The rocket lands on a tree. It sets fire, and Drasa runs to extinguish it and finds a rope tied on the rocket. She knots the rope firmly to the tree, and she runs back to the tower, where she encounters Levi, requesting her to dinner. Levi drops on the rope over the ravine, but becomes entangled in the middle. The gloves he is wearing make him take the rope with his hands and continue moving. He then soon arrives at the tower of Drasa and brings her flowers. She tells her that he stinks of the exercising. Levi agrees to shower. As he is washing, Drasa appropriates his uniform and leaves some nice clothes left by someone who has lived there before. During dinner, they discuss the experiences of being mercenaries and the impact the profession has on their psyche. Then they dance and have fun. The morning, Levi begins to slide on the rope to come back to his tower. Just then, hollow men arrive at his wall and walk on a mine. The mine blasts off and slices through the rope. Levi begins to fall and bursts out his parachute. Drasa goes to her own armory and takes weapons and a parachute belonging to herself. She leaps in the gorge, and after falling several miles, she falls in a river. Her parachute on the surface jam hits a rock. Thus, Drasa cuts it off. The present propels her, and she collapses against a rock, heaving the auto-ascender. The river continues to push her, and thus she clings onto tree roots in order to get to land. Levi is in a coma and is hanging on a tree. This is because a branch suddenly moves and is a monster. Upon the monster approaching, Levi wakes up, begins shooting, and unravels the ropes. He stumbles and hits mud, yet sticky goo begins to move, and it is the mouth of another monster. The goo entraps Levi on closure. Fortunately, Drasa happens to hear the gunfire and fires upon the beast, saving Levi. Drasa dissects the goo off the body of Levi using a knife. They go to the wall and go in search of the rope. Then they hear a screeching, and there comes two hollow men on their horse, which are like trees. They are swarmed by the riders with swords, and one of them even jumps off the horse onto Drasa. Using a knife, she stabs the neck of the rider, causing him to fall, and she shoots him on the face. The rider on the other horse takes the gun of Levi with a whip. Levi shoots and kills the horse and the rider. Then Drasa looks at her bag and realizes that the auto-ascender was in the river. The walls are too high to climb, and they are stuck. She believes they ought to go down with the river to its head. Levi examines the thing he has killed and discovers an old army uniform. So the hollow men are horsemen who were lost in the story. They continue to move through the woods and discover hundreds of bodies. They manage to arrive at a deserted town where the houses are full of mutated plants. There is damage of earthquake on the ground. They are hearing the screeching. More monsters are approaching. The two conceal in a church and discover the bodies of the dead on the pews. To the smell of cyanide, Levi refers to the fact that these people had killed themselves, being unable to live there. Suddenly, they hear a noise. Drasa raises her eyes and beholds a giant spider leaping upon her. She drives it aside and collapses to the floor. Then another spider arrives, and as she stabs it, two other spiders attack Levi. He shoots them quickly. Soon, there are a number of spiders about them. The two soldiers are taking fire to take away as many as possible. Drasa has no more bullets, and as such, Levi reloads her. They proceed to the door, but in an instant, hollow men come in. The men in uniform have to divide their attention between the hollow men and the spiders. Drasa smashes the head of one of his creatures on a table and discards it. The spiders crawl on the monster also. Levi struggles with some of these creatures, and after struggling, shoots them. Then, Drasa tosses a grenade against the back wall, making a large hole to enable them escape. Levi and Drasa move through the forest, yet they can continue hearing the screeches of creatures that are quite distant. They are overexposed, and hence they make the decision to move closer to the wall. They discover an ancient door and enter. Plants have occupied a facility in the inside. Delving further, they get to know that it was a military laboratory. There is a generator and skeletons. Drasa switches on the generator. Levi discover a tape and they play it on a projector. In the film, there is a scientist who informs that it is 1946. According to him, this community is a product of a secret alliance of countries. They, during the final World War II years, were engaged in biochemical missiles. 2 weeks prior to the movie, an earthquake occurred in the region and resulted in a chemical spillage. The researchers did not sleep as they tried to contain the toxin. The poison quickly spread in the DNA of the local flora and fauna and infected it. Exposure even to the toxin in brief lengths does not matter, but the longer the scientists were exposed to it, the more they were exposed to it, and it started to take its toll on them. This is proven by the presence of branches on the stomach of the woman on the screen. The toxin did not spread to the rest of the world since the base was located in a gorge. In a different room, there is a computer belonging to the late 2000s that Levi and Drasa discover. This demonstrates that people continued to come after the first incidents to carry on with the experiment. Levi switches on computer and notices that the location is owned by Darklake, an exclusive paramilitary firm. The drone they have seen the other day was sampling Darklake on behalf of his experiments, which focus on producing super soldiers. The secret is kept by the towers and employed guards. Levi discovers the explanation of the Straydog protocol on the computer. It is in reality a nuclear bomb which will sterilize the area in case there is a leakage. As the two walk away, Levi remarks that it was well worth the missions as he met Drasa. As they leave, they toss a smoke grenade through the door and leave. The whip of the Hollow Man suddenly takes hold on her ankle and pulls her away. The horse rider takes her to the forest. Drasa attempts to cut the whip using her knife, but she collides with a tree and falls down with the knife. She attempts to shoot, but she is unable to aim as she is struck with rocks and logs. Levi traces the tracks of the rider and eventually gets to the facility where the nuclear bomb is. The Hollow Man suspends Drasa in-house. He swings the branch that is trapped in her stomach to torture her, then extracts it. Drasa kicks him in the chest and loosens the ropes about the beam that tie her up. Then she shoves the Hollow Man and takes a piece of metal as a weapon. She continues being overpowered by the Hollow Man. Even a snake in his heart makes an attempt. Drasa never gives up and decapitates the snake and throws the metal at the Hollow Man. The metal does not damage much, but it makes the Hollow Man angry. He begins pursuing her with his sword. Drasa shields herself with bones and constructs a torch out of a bonfire, and that allows her to burn him. The Hollow Man screams of pain, and Levi enters shooting and killing him. Levi then gazes at the Hollow Man after the soldiers hug him and reads the name printed on his uniform. He knows it was the first guard who was in the tower. Upon eagerness to grab the sword, the duo begins to head out and locate the area at which the initial leakage occurred. Mangled monsters abound, pinned in the lap made of sticky stuff. Levi and Drasa begin to walk on a bridge, and they are creeped out by the goo breathing out of faces. Drasa steps on a root. As she pulls at the sticky substance, the bodies fall, making an attempt to have her. Levi cuts her roots with his sword and rescues her. Large animals open their eyes and bark at them. When Levi continues to slice through the way using his sword, a goo whip seizes his ankle and causes him to fall. Drasa throws a grenade in their back and they explode. The creatures ignite and the fire disperses over the goo. The two arrive at the stairs and at last get out. Then they go on a search round the town and locate some military jeeps in a garage. They are working on an engine and enter a jeep. They will go on a trip of many hours till they reach a rope, which is broken. Levi immediately ties the rope to the jeep, and Drasa fires at Hollow Men who attempt to come near. As soon as she has exhausted all her bullets, they interchange positions. As soon as the jeep is prepared, they begin to climb up the wall. It is all okay until they notice the Hollow Men climbing up them. One of them is kicked, and Levi begins to kill others with his sword. Drasa discovers an axe inside the toolbox and uses them to kill more animals. When Levi uses his monster body against the wheels of the jeep, Drasa must strike a monster to fall over the front window. Then, some Hollow Man leaps to give a push to Levi. At the nick of the time, Levi manages to take the jeep in his hand, yet he remains hanging. He drills into the tank of the jeep, gets back in, and lightens a flare and tosses it into the animals. The flare collides with dripping propane, resulting in a huge explosion that burns all enemies and blasts the jeep into the air. When he collides with the wall and breaks his leg, Drasa is forced to pick him up. Moved nearer to the top, they slice the rope and the jeep crash lands down onto the Hollow Men who were left behind. Then they ascend the remainder and arrive at the Tower of Drasa. During their healing period, they resolve to spend 5 days in quarantine by staying apart, since there is a possibility that they are infected. They desire to get away jointly, and therefore they intend to demolish the Gorge. They hug, and Levi tells her that he loves her, and then he grapples back to his tower. On the following day, they are radio checked in. Bartholomew is answering Levi, and instead of the normal person, he comes on as she heard that the lab computer was on. Levi claims he did not enter the Gorge, and thus Bartholomew believes that it was some other person. She assigns him a new task: murder them. Before the call is terminated, Levi feigns consent. They later discover that the computer in the lab had a camera, and Bartholomew is aware that the two soldiers were present. She calls a commander to summon a group to visit the Gorge. The following day, as soldiers are planting mines, Drasa sends a text to Levi saying that she loves him. Then they recognize a helicopter and begin to run in the forest. Soldiers discover the towers empty and launch drones, and a chase begins. The drones shoot, thus Levi and Drasa shoot back, killing them all but sustaining minor injuries. On reaching a high point, they get sniper positions and fire at the cloakers. The mines that they use, taking the place of the previous ones, cause a domino effect which clears all the cloakers. Since the Gorge is open, a Straydog procedure takes effect. Bartholomew and her crew hurriedly board the helicopter to depart, and Levi and Drasa hurried as quickly as possible. The nuclear bomb bursts, and the massive explosion destroys the helicopter, resulting in crashing down, which kills all the people in it. The blast forces Levi down a cliff to a river. Drasa flees and hides in a cave, waiting to be picked up by Levi. Drasa also resolves to depart in isolation after 1 month of silence. She later becomes a waitress in France sometime later. One One day, she meets Levi at a table and is appalled. He states that he had to take long before he could regain his sanity after he had been injured before they could again kiss. Subscribe and use notifications to keep watching other videos such as this. Thanks for watching.